In Project Zomboid's newest update, there are numerous new locations to explore, from skyscrapers to Wild West towns to bunkers deep underground. But one of these places caught my attention more than all others. Far beyond the country, besides the most dangerous city in all of Project Zomboid, is an entire airport with warehouses, terminals, and even an air traffic control tower. And in this journey, my goal would be to reach the new airport, completely take it over, eliminating thousands of zombies, and make it my new home. To be clear, this was no easy task. We start this journey on the road away from my previous home in the country. While I wouldn't be gone forever, it wasn't much of a home anymore. And the long and short of it was that my beautiful resort had suffered a heartbreaking fate as a result of Project Zomboid's newest patch.
Cool, so my entire base has been reverted to the way it was before I built anything. That is awesome. That's so cool, man.
But rest assured, I would still be back down the line to visit the farm and make use of any of its produce. Instead, I looked to the future. With my van fully loaded up with all of my valuables, or those that remained at least, I set off down the highway. It was certainly too far to make it all the way to the airport in one go, so I would potentially have to take a few rest stops along the way. As I headed down the long road to my new home, I set out a few key goals to accomplish in this chapter of my story. Number one, the most obvious of them all. I'd need to reach the airport itself. And this was not as easy as you might think. As you headed closer and closer to Louisville, zombies would grow more and more congested. So just getting to my destination was not a foregone conclusion. And also I had a dangerous habit of getting sidetracked, as you'll come to see. Number two, I would clear the airport and secure it from the undead horde. And with Build 42 zombie distributions, this was even harder than my first goal, since I'd have to kill hundreds, if not thousands of the rotting dead. And number three, I'd build a new hub for the future, a safe home with all the necessary requirements to sustain life. Since I was passing through, I'd taken it upon myself to take a quick stop in Muldra. Not only had I looted a few bits of valuable food, but I'd found a van the same as mine, meaning I was able to quickly commandeer its windscreen and install it on my primary vehicle. My mechanic skill that I'd accrued made this light work, and since for some reason the zombie population was minimal at best, this seemed like a no-brainer. As an added bonus, in checking the ambulance nearby, I found a fair few medical supplies, which would come in handy as the Great Deletion, as we'll be calling it from here on out, had vaporized pretty much all of my medical resources. With that in mind, I headed back onto the road and towards my destination. To give a bit of an update on my current stockpiles, of all the loot I'd collected, much of it hadn't survived the Great Deletion. Fortunately, I had retained a supply of guns and ammo, but more importantly, I still had two of my most important tools, my fire axe and my sledgehammer. So finding a pathway to the airport and surviving once I'd arrived was going to be much more feasible. But I did have some key items I'd be looking out for. First, any kind of food and seasonings would be extremely important, as I'd lost my entire kitchen and all its produce. Secondly, I was extremely short on decent melee weapons. The axe would do the trick for now, but I needed something more sustainable for down the line. However, it had occurred to me at this point that melee weapons probably wouldn't be enough to clear the kind of hordes we'd be dealing with. So as I passed by West Point, I concocted a plan. Knowing that the gun store at the far side of the town was normally not too congested, I passed by the main streets and parked up my car at a safe location just outside of the site of any large groups of zombies, with a goal to acquire a few more additions to my arsenal. And of course, this goal was not one I'd accomplish alone, since I was accompanied by my good friend Mr. Brollo, who was lucky enough to survive the Great Deletion.
You're slack, Mr. Brollo. Should have defended me. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of this generator. It's taking up too much space. The space I might need for these guns. Alright, let's do this. Well, we all gotta go.
While I didn't manage to acquire any new high-powered firearms, I was spoilt for choice in terms of ammunition. So for now, shotguns would be the main weapon of choice. Funneling the loot from the gun shop into my trailer was another problem altogether though, since I had been full to the brim from my last looting trip before heading towards the airport. So I had to be quite strategic about how I approached my storage space. And if that wasn't enough, just lugging the loot back and forth was not as convenient as you might think. In the short term, I tried to find an alternative vehicle to load up with all the ammo. That way I could drive out of the town, park up next to my van, and take my sweet time deciding what to keep and what to leave. But things initially weren't looking too promising. Both the cars I tried to commandeer either didn't have fuel or weren't functional. So instead I opted to return to my van and drive it safely around the coast, since it'd hopefully be quiet enough to bring it straight to the gun store itself. But I was already beginning to face a problem, because all this running back and forth and all the umming and ahhing over my plans had taken up a lot of time. So after dealing with a few zombies nearby my car, I decided to take a bit of a risk and sleep in my car on the coast. It was unlikely any undead would want to buy, but sleeping in your car outside like this is always dangerous, since by the time you get awoken you could already be bitten. But that was a risk I was willing to take, mostly because I was too lazy to find any other alternative. This was, as always, a running theme.
That could have gone a lot worse. I don't really know if this is the best way to get around, but go van, go little van, go, fly like the wind, little van. Perfect. Man, that really could have gone a lot worse. There you go, boss. Bing bang bosh, there you go. Brolo, can you keep watch? Keep watch of the area, alright? You got this, Brolo. I think I'm just gonna have to be realistic about what actually, I can't use half this ammo. There's no shot I'm using a pistol instead of a shotgun.
With the gun store cleared, I returned to my long journey. Pause it right there. Right. Let's quite literally address the elephant in the room. For those who have followed my previous journeys, you'll know that my only friend out here in Build 42 was Mr. Brolo. He wasn't as animated as usual, but he was the best I could find. And together we had grand plans for our future in this new world. That was if we always stuck together. Oh, the comments are gonna fucking kill me. Now I was equipped to actually deal with any zombies inside the airport, so this was an important looting stop along the way. If it wasn't apparent already, the distance I needed to travel to reach my goal was anything but small. But I knew these areas quite well from my various journeys in the past. My strategy at this point was to navigate past the Crossroads Mall, a place I was particularly familiar with. From there, I could take the far road through the farming zones, enter the military fenced highway with a sledgehammer, and then continue on. I stopped for another night at the gas station off the highway. It made for a safe area to hole up and I didn't have to deal with too many zombies. Plus, I was able to stock up on some more food and drink to keep me sustained for my trip. Since storage was such a problem, I used any free hours I had before I slept and after I woke up to read some magazines and books. Anything that could reduce my overall load for down the line. Knowing my habits, it would only be a matter of time until I found an opportunity too enticing to resist. So being packed to the brim was not ideal in the slightest. As I prepared to head off down the road once again, I recognized that another gas station may not be as accessible as the one I was at right now. So I connected a generator, filled up the van, and then loaded the generator back into my trunk. Being optimal with each stop was going to be important for my continued survival in this build, especially since there were certainly going to be further roadblocks down the road. Speaking of which, as I followed the long road down towards the mall, the thought crossed my mind once or twice that this might well be the best opportunity to look for new vehicles. It was extremely risky, but I was certainly not a rookie anymore. So with the right approach, I could at the very least look over the area and see if anything piqued my interest. With the release of further mods as Build 42's lifecycle continued, there were certainly going to be some new vehicles that might surpass the quality of my van. As to what they looked like, however, that I didn't really know. And that was especially problematic since the car park of the Crossroads Mall had an extensive selection of cars, at the cost of a giant barrier of entry. Hundreds, if not thousands of zombies. But that wasn't going to stop me.
Oh man, storage there. Oh, it's so tempting, man. I have to try. Oh, I have to, man. Look at it. I have to see. Okay. I gotta try and turn that police car on. That's step one. Or actually, that fire engine might work as well. Oh, this is tricky, man. This is tricky and risky. This one might work. Hold on. Leave the car on. Go. Please open. Fuck. Never mind. That one's locked. This is manageable. This is so manageable. All right, let's have a look. 143. That's so worth, man. That's so worth. Plus it'll have more seats as well. So honestly, I could probably fit all the extra in the seats. So like in theory, so that's another 60 storage. That'll cover all the excess. A big group there I gotta be careful of. Fit whatever I can into my backpack. Did I leave Mr. Brollo behind? I didn't, did I? Did I leave Mr. Brollo behind? Oh, what a horrible realization. Oh no. I left Mr. Brollo in West Point. Oh no. I left him in West Point.
So this journey I continued on alone. Yes, I was in a pretty good spot. This new car was far more durable, fast on the roads, and had a huge amount of its own storage. But it still felt empty, because if I only had one friend in this apocalypse, it was a pretty big screw up to leave him behind.
I gotta take a rest. No, I can't believe that, bro. That's crazy. Wait. Mr. Brollo? What the hell? How did you get here? What are you doing, dude? I thought I left you in Westport. What the hell? Dude. I can't believe you. Did you change clothes? We gotta get you a new outfit, though. I don't think that one really works for you, man. So sorry about that little mix-up, Mr. Brollo. An honest mistake. That's my bad. That is my bad.
So Mr. Brollo and I were reunited. Together we continued down the road, stocked up on resources and with some space to spare. We began heading down the stretch of road that would lead us to the military road which split the world in two. And that is where we would face an unexpected adversary.
Ooh, sheesh. Yeah, this isn't good. Maybe we need to sleep before we get to the checkpoint. Well, hey, that went exceptionally well, given my track record of almost never shooting a gun.
After dealing with a large group of zombies that had held me up, night was beginning to fall. This was a pretty standard pattern, but like I said at the beginning, I expected a few stops along the way. Traveling this distance without encountering issues was at best unlikely. Fortunately, I was nearby the local farmhouse that preceded the fence itself, so I was able to bring the car in and settle in for another night's sleep. At this point in my journey, I was becoming more and more appreciative of the wakeful trait, since it meant that I spent less time in bed and more time before the sunrise, where I was able to organize my belongings, read any books, or just prepare as needed. I didn't do much looting since this house was pretty much devoid of any loot to begin with, but it did the job for a quick stay. And with all that accomplished, I headed back onto the road, to the fence, and more trouble amongst it.
Quite a few here. Oh well, let's get some more guns practice. What do you say?
Fighting zombies with guns like this was a two-pronged strategy. First, it would allow me to level up my aiming and reloading skills, and I didn't know for sure, but I suspected that when I arrived at the airport, these two skills may be essential in taking out the larger hordes that awaited. And secondly, it would clear through some of the excess ammo that I had, which I'd then hopefully be able to refill through the ammo stocks found within the fence area itself. It was like a cycle kind of thing, you know? But the little checkpoint inside wasn't the main source of loot I was looking for. I would find something inside the fence that was far more impressive, but we'll get to that in a bit. It took a pretty substantial amount of time for me to navigate my way through this space. Not only were there a heap of zombies coming from far away, but once I'd broken open the fence with a sledgehammer, even more of them started to come from the far side, through the entrance opposite me. But eventually I was able to make my way through, and scavenge any leftover loot within these tents.
Ooh. I don't know what aiming books we have. And you might say, who's we? Well, of course, me and Mr. Brollo. Alright, nothing that special in here. Never mind. Hold on. Hold on. Let him cook. Let him cook. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, come on. One of these days I'll find an M16, bro. Oh, let's fucking go. Let's go. Let's go. What did I tell you? One of these days, man. One of these days.
Now, from this point, I had two paths to my destination. I was getting very close, but the reality was that by the time I dealt with all these undead, it was already getting closer to the evening. And through investigating the paths on my map, I saw an area I was relatively unfamiliar with. Down at the far end of the fenced area was a set of buildings. And to be frank, I don't even know if these were new in this build. I'd just never explored them before. I assumed the former, but you never really know. But I couldn't help but think at the very least, they might provide me with a place to hole up for the night, since arriving at the airport during the pitch black night didn't seem like a great strategy.
Well, now I feel a little bit more comfortable with taking on whatever's at the airport, because I know I can hold off, you know, a decent group. Obviously none that size, but I mean, you got to start somewhere, and that aiming skill is going to be very helpful, and the shotgun upgrades, and the M16 is very big help. I still think we run shotgun for now, just because I don't know how much 5.56 we have, but I don't imagine it's a huge amount. Hold on. Okay. This is new and there's a lot of them. Hold on. We can't just rush in here. There is a lot of them here, but this seems like it's worth the shots.
So with a little bit of time on my hands and my aiming book read, I was able to continue my shotgun training, surrounded by the safe fences that would block any wayward zombies from approaching. I made it my mission to completely clear out this little military area. And this was no small task, but it was good practice for the fate in front of me. As I neared completion of my first goal, the number one stopping me from doing so safely was the threat of the undead horde. With zombie density what it was, the reality is that what awaited me in the large warehouses and terminals of the airport was a disgusting amount of zombies. So the extra training would ensure my second goal of clearing the airport was even possible. After numerous hours of combating the zombies here, I headed back to my car and made the risky decision to stay the night inside of it. It was becoming clear to me that I wouldn't be able to clear all the zombies inside of the buildings before I'd need to sleep. And drowsiness in Project Zomboid is actually one of the more dangerous conditions to combat. Unfortunately, this sleep went without issue, which was another comforting outcome to say the least. In the early morning, I returned to the building area with the car, prepared to finish what I started and clear out the remaining loot from this place, potentially replenishing any diminishing ammunition stocks that I'd used up in this fight and the one prior.
Just like a military housing area. I don't think this is in the game before. I don't remember this. I've never been here for sure. Unless I should switch my boots out. I want to say we might need a welder's mask. Ooh, I will take that. I will take that. And the shovel can go. I don't really know what I'm missing. I kind of need to settle somewhere, you know what I mean? Because without settling down and like unloading everything and figuring out what I'm missing, it's like, it's just needle in a haystack. Oh my God, what is this place? There's so much here, man. Oh God, I wish I had a bigger trailer. I might need to drop all that ammo that I was talking about, like the 9mm, 38 special. Keep just the 5.56 and the shotgun shells. This place would be crazy for a base. Like it's all fenced already. In a water cooler here. Yeah, man, what a crazy spot. It's all this stuff. Basically a whole base already here. Right, that's enough. Why Yo, never mind. Yo, all in the clear, baby. Say no more. Oh, it's gonna be a big night tonight. Are we finally clear, Mr. Brollo? Our adventure continues.
So the long journey was about to come to an end. And yes, it would be followed with a different kind of journey, but the details of that would unfold over the coming days. For now, you can witness my first approach of the Louisville Airport and the location of my future home. Hopefully.
Welcome to the airport. I've never been here. I don't know what to expect. That's a big ass trailer. More parking. A lot of Zeds. A lot more parking. Okay, so far manageable. And that would be the actual airport area. How far down does this go? Okay, so this is all airport section here. Can I get in at the end? This is a bad idea. We're gonna do it anyway. Well, we are officially probably breaking some kind of law, but this is it. This is the airport, man. I don't know if I can see in them if I get closer. Oh! What the fuck? Hold on. Hold on, hold on. What? I mean, it was a little delayed, but things just got very interesting.
Yeah, so this airport came with plenty of surprises. Some native to the game, some modded, but most, if not all of them, exciting. And what you're looking at would be a key tool for down the line, because this airport was just the beginning of a new chapter for me. One where this entire world would become my playground, assuming of course I didn't die, which is really assuming something because I have a habit of doing that. For now though, I thought it was only fair that I at least gave it a test drive.
I shouldn't. I should save it. I should save it. I shouldn't. I should save it. Well, I mean, this seems like a bad idea. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, I'm fucking flying, dude. Oh, whoa, I'm fucking flying, dude. Holy shit. Hey, man, I am freaking flying. Oh my god, okay. The game has changed. The game has officially changed. And this shit is loud as hell. Alright, now the question really is, can I land this? Alright, hold on. Nice and gentle, nice and gentle. Holy shit, this thing is loud. This playthrough just got very interesting. Oh, well, in the meantime, it's still good and fine to be able to fly places, but where the hell am I gonna live?
Now, fun and games aside, I had a lot of work to do in this airport. For now, at least, I had accomplished my first goal. I had officially reached the airport. Now I could direct my eyes towards the future and the next steps. Since I was already beginning to feel drowsy, I drove my Humvee into the hangar to hole up for the night. And I just want to get in early and say I have literally no idea if this is technically a Humvee, but the mod has a word that looks like the word Humvee and it looks like a Humvee, so it's a Humvee now. So please don't post 300 comments telling me that the name of the vehicle is wrong, because I've been through that. I've suffered enough, okay? Please don't hurt me. In the morning, I awoke safely, which was great since there were no doors to this hangar, so sleeping here was pretty risky. I drove out onto the tarmac and began my tour to try and find the best location for my new home. And the first building I came across in the center of the tarmac itself was a very, very interesting one. But in order to investigate further, I had to deal with a few unwanted guests.
It's kind of like a win-win, because if there's any big hordes nearby that I don't know about, hopefully they'll come out.
With the lion's share of the nearby undead dealt with, I was ready to enter the building, but doing so would be pretty unsafe, so I needed a bit of extra comfort. Fortunately, kitted out with my new armor, Mr. Brollo was here to save the day, keeping watch on the entrance while I moved within. I quickly investigated the car parked here, but it didn't seem like a must-have, so I hot-wired it, gave it a little bit of fuel, and moved it around the corner in case I needed it down the line. With that dealt with, I headed inside to see if this would be the location for my new home.
Courtyard here, this is nice. Put a little farm there. There's already a kitchen here. This place is perfect, man. Well, there's not much up here, but I mean, it's definitely, we can turn it into something. Wait, what is this? Oh, there's a second level. Am I stupid? How did I not notice that? In reality, the power's not going to reach to the top, so I might not build up there. I might be better off building in here, in this second level. Even though the top is cool, it's the power. They just haven't figured out the power. It's not going to reach to the top.
This place was pretty much as perfect a location as you could find. And honestly, if the zombies from the airport itself weren't that problematic, this would be a pretty good base for most players. It had a secure enclosed garden area, several doors to cover the entrance, and every single ground floor window was secured by an unbreakable barrier. This was pretty much a slam dunk in terms of base spots in this new world. But it needed a lot of work. In this small area, I could and would have to establish several necessary utilities to stay alive. First, a small farm to keep me alive in the absence of my produce from back at the resort. And again, I still planned to go back there, but until I knew how to fly, that was a bit ahead of me. On top of that, I'd have to get power, a proper kitchen, and a stove, and some storage set up in here. But fortunately, I had most of the stuff to make that happen. It was just a matter of imagination and time. For now, I focused on the basics, bringing all my loot inside and unloading the trailer and the Humvee. Now I could make use of the most advanced storage system in Project Zomboid, the exact way the developers intended it. The expansive floor storage system, which I would henceforth refer to as Fs, because who the Fs wants to sort all this shit into boxes? I don't know, this joke is so cringe, but I must... Anyway, once all my loot was unloaded, I was able to take stock of what I had, what I needed, and what was limited. And things weren't as straightforward as they seemed. But I wasn't going to kill over and die in the next few days, which was a positive takeaway from all my organizing. With the basics dealt with, I had one focus, and that focus, by no surprise, was my second goal. If I was going to live in this airport and explore more of it as time went by, I had a lot of zombie killing to do. And I say this now knowing what the future holds. Spoiler alert, Build 42 and large buildings together means lots and lots and lots of undead. But hey, take comfort in the fact that I would be the one to suffer through the hours and hours of fighting, and you can watch it in just a matter of minutes. I headed over to the next building below me, and I didn't yet know it, but this building was part of a larger complex, the main terminal of this airport. For now, I just wanted to make any progress I could on the undead threat, hoping that I might be able to loot the areas on the edge of the terminal and find some of the key items to assist me as I traverse further, to quantify my needs in a way that might be more digestible. At this point, the main things I'd be looking out for would be more melee weapons, any ammunition, any extra generators, and a stove. The first of which could be pretty much anywhere I looked, so I'd have to check every shelving unit I came across. As I made my way towards and through the first access point to this larger building, I started to tackle the larger foe, the Endless Horde. And as you've seen, Build 42 is a whole different beast. In my previous days during this life, I had certainly encountered a pretty hefty amount of these zombies, but big buildings were a whole different can of worms. As you created more sound and eliminated more zombies one by one, larger groups would trail out of the building's openings. And this was just the beginning. It would only get worse from here, considering this part of the building was not the central point nor the entrance. After dealing with the initial swarms of the undead, I recognized that I was dealing far too much damage to my melee weapons. This would have been less problematic if I had a reasonable supply, but since the Great Deletion, that was not the case. So I decided to continue work on my aiming by picking up the shotgun. And this was the beginning of a multiple day effort, because naturally I would draw a lot of attention using a shotgun, but in my eyes, this was a worthwhile endeavor. Ultimately, my goal was to clear this place completely. So even if it caused me a little bit of trouble now, it was a necessary evil. And finally, after almost a whole day of just eliminating zombies with a gun no less, I was able to at least venture past the first door into this section of the building. It was apparent at this point that this particular area was a mechanics area. Fortunately, that meant I was able to grab a couple of tools, and more importantly, a couple of melee weapons. Again though, this was to be expected. A lot of the areas of this building would be lackluster. It was about trying to locate the hidden gems within this complex. With that in mind, I decided to investigate beyond the terminal for now. I took my Humvee around for a quick drive before encountering a bit more of a promising potential loot location.
I want to know what's in these buildings over here, though. Hold on. I need food. Oh, sorry about that.
So I had a plan for the coming days. This giant warehouse building was hopefully a little bit more interesting in terms of loot, and I now accidentally acquired some food to get me through the next few days also. So this was my next plan. As part of my second goal, I would clear out this large building, hopefully bringing me closer to an entirely safe airport complex. But for now, I took my new source of meat back to my new home, before realizing I didn't actually have a way to carve it.
I'm really out here putting whole deers in the fucking in the fridge. Don't ask me how this works. What was I doing? I was trying to cut up things, but I don't have a knife. So ideally, if I can find a knife, that would be really convenient, because I can cut up these animals and cook them up in the oven that I just realized I don't have. All the irony, so now I need an oven. But yeah, you know what? One step at a time, right? We'll be fine. Probably, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess I could look up the top buildings. That honestly might not be a bad idea, because there might just be some easy food and stuff. Okay. How you doing, Mr. Brollo? Dude, Mr. Brollo's been pretty, I don't know, flamboyant ever since the mall trip. I don't know what's gotten into him. Yeah, let's check these buildings up here. I'm not going to spend ages here because I don't know if there's anything in here. A lot of these buildings are just completely empty. This looks like A flight school maybe? Which, long story short, means that there's probably not much of value here. What are you? Another office, I think. We'll have a look, just in case. It's open. It is. Yep, thought I heard you. I have all this. Oh, there's some good magazines. Alright, let's move. There's gun lockers down there. Hold on. Oh, they're bouncing to the window. That's fine. Hello, mate. That was a kitchen knife, which is one of the things I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Medical area? Why am I sad and tense? You are the one that I want. But I don't suppose you're going to open up for me, are you?
This looting run to the office on the top edge of the airport was a pretty big win. I'd found some food supplies, some clothing, the knife I was after, and some furniture that I definitely didn't need. At this point, everything I did was to set myself up for success with the warehouse. With my new knife, I carved up some venison from the deer that had been accidentally disposed of, and before sleeping for the night, I read a few books and prepared for the beginning of my job tomorrow. In the morning, before the sun had risen, I headed outside to my Humvee and made a broad plan for my approach. First, I'd need to get a sense of the area. While you may know based on the maps that I've shared how the area shaped up, I had no idea. And frankly, it wouldn't be too much of an issue to find out. I drove down the tarmac beyond the main terminal building, and though it was pleasantly surprising that I didn't run into any huge hordes out here, I knew that the bulk of them would be within the buildings themselves. Such was the nature of their spawning now. Once I reached the first warehouse, I started by making myself an easy access point through the fence. While it was true that I could have just broken a hole in the wall on the longer side, that would potentially invite hundreds of zombies through a tiny hole towards me. I was hoping that by entering from one of the shorter sides that the flow of zombies would be more manageable as opposed to unruly.
Be ready. I hear one in there. Oh my... Bro, leave it till the last second, why don't you? Jerk. Asshole, man.
Now at first I had hoped that my axe would be enough to get through the bulk of the first wave, but it quickly became apparent that this was about as bad as I thought it could be. The zombies started to flow out in huge numbers, so my quiet plan quickly became a not so quiet plan, and I instead opted to use my shotgun, which was at this point pretty effective through all the training so far. This would become a pretty standard pattern for me, but to be honest, using guns was a nice change from all the work at the resort and everywhere I've been so far, where I'd been limited to using melee weapons in most situations.
I definitely don't want to take them where I saw a lot, because that would be a really bad idea. I don't even really have to stop, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it. My aiming is good enough that I don't have to stop to get that stability anymore. Like, it does add a lot, but like, if they're that close, like I can kind of, hold on, I'm kind of cooking right now. Holy shit. Oh, it's gonna be a long day. I just don't know if I have enough ammo for this kind of...
And what at first had started as a casual encounter quickly became a test of my skills. To think that all of these zombies came from one building was kinda crazy, but that was the nature of the beast now. I had in some ways anticipated it, so I just kept on keeping on, silently clicking away to overcome the undead threat. And before long, I was able to take a quick rest before pursuing any further in.
I mean, there's shells in there. The hope would be I find another axe, because with these things I can like work my way through. The shotgun's still obviously more efficient just in terms of energy, time, and all that. But I mean, like having another melee weapon to be able to use would be very convenient, to say the least. Oh, we come a long way from clearing out a resort, huh?
Now, since my axe had seen better days, I took a rest break at my home. Being a few hundred meters away across clean tarmac was pretty convenient. It meant it was easy for me to drive home, but any approaching zombies would be easy to spot. Once I'd sharpened my axe and repaired it as much as I could, I headed back to the warehouse, ready to hopefully investigate further in.
Go in here, see what we got. There's still a few in here, but I bet you there was a lot more before. I mean, they must have come from somewhere. Oh yeah, there's still a fair few in here. Man, they just come from every bloody corner, don't they? Right, what do we got? Not looking good so far.
So I was officially past the threshold, and if it wasn't already apparent, this warehouse building was a motherload of loot. And we'll investigate the full extent of it later, but for now, all you have to know is that this building is huge, and it's filled with various storage of different types. But even if I thought this place was clear, it certainly wasn't. With each couple of zombies I'd kill, I'd see a few more come out of the darkness, and things quickly began to spiral, particularly because of my exhaustion. But I kept on keeping on, because I actually didn't really anticipate the scale of this place just yet. It wasn't until I'd moved further in that I'd understand why it seemed like zombies just kept on appearing out of nowhere. Having been through the first few rows, I'd found some random clothes, a few miscellaneous items, and some dog food, which was not the most promising start. But as I navigated my way further in, I found the first section that seemed to indicate some value.
Surely those shelves have to have something decent. You're not going to make me do all this for nothing, right? This is not bad. Would really top this off would be an axe. Hatchet, we like to see that. Box of batteries. Yeah, I'm getting really weak because I'm tired and exhausted, so I'm gonna duck out, and then when I come back in the morning, I can drive the car in here. Did that kitchen at the back have like a stove? Now I gotta check.
Now, one of the missing pieces of our new home was a way to cook reliably, since I only had a microwave in the air traffic control tower. Since it was late at night, I didn't intend to travel too far, especially since I was mid-process on looting the warehouse. But in checking the office building at the rear entrance of the airport, I found a stove exactly like I was looking for. And since I was already at the building, although it wasn't the most appealing option for bedding, I opted to collect the prison bed that I'd noticed earlier. After sledgehammering the door, it was easy enough to pick up and load into the Humvee. That was 2 essential needs checked off my list for my home: a place to sleep and a way to cook. Things were coming together a lot quicker in this new base. Obviously, part of that was the skills I had brought with me from my last adventure, but this was no easy task. Those prior skills would help me now, but taking on endless hordes would still require a hell of a lot of work. With the new bed in place, I called it a night. In the morning, I decided to actually return to the office building to completely clear the place out, since I knew in the back area there were some gun lockers behind an electric door. Any guns and weapons may be helpful as I continued to clear the warehouse, so I went in with my sledgehammer and removed the wall behind my trapped friend. After he was dealt with, I started funneling the loot back to the Humvee. There was nothing game-changing here, but some extra ammo, shotguns, and an M14 would help adding to the arsenal for clearing the warehouse and terminal. With that in mind, I stripped this place pretty clean, making sure to also check some lockers inside for clothes and some cabinets in the back area. There was nothing crazy, but some decent clothes and med supplies. I also checked this little building near the tower, but it didn't house much of value. By the time I'd returned home, it was getting close to nighttime, so I called it a night. And in the morning, I dug into a delicious venison roast I'd prepared from the sacrifices prior before confronting the elephant in the room.
All right, we're finally sorting some stuff out. This is good behavior for me. It's evolution as a person. I'm becoming a more sane individual. I don't know if I like that or hate it, but that is what it is. A lot of ammo. We're gonna need some big boxes in here. I gotta remember how to make those. You know what we should do? We really should like plant some stuff for farming. Even with the farming getting turned up, which it is, because I mean, I'm not going to play a year to get a single crop. I need to get them down sooner rather than later, because obviously stuff will grow sooner rather than later.
After completing the beginning of my sorting efforts, the thought crossed my mind that it might be a smart idea to get some kind of farming down. But I checked my piles, and unfortunately my gardening tools were hit by the Great Deletion, and to travel all the way home to the resort was still a bit beyond my means, though it wouldn't be the case forever. So instead I stuck to my initial plan of returning to the huge warehouse I'd been making progress in prior. On a foggy morning, I returned to the warehouse across the tarmac with my Humvee, prepared to make further headway. Initially, I continued to funnel through the hardware shelving units I was up to, fortunate to find a gardening trowel which would aid me in establishing a small farm, and a number of hatchets which would help me with my melee weapon needs in the short term. The next shelving unit across, fortunately for me, appeared to be food stocks. This was convenient since having accessible food at this point was going to help me get through the next few days without having to find any proteins. But despite the looting initially going to plan, I quickly became aware that there were far more zombies alive within than I had planned. This building was a lot larger than I thought.
Oh yeah, that one level in axe has made a big difference. Oh my god, there's one behind me. There's one behind me. Ah, I couldn't even see him. Damn it, dude. It's my hand as well. That was a rookie mistake, and it really messed up my oh man, that really messed me up. Shit.
With my now injured hand, I was having far more trouble getting through these wayward undead with a melee weapon. In some regards, this was pretty much worst case scenario for injuries, other than a fatal one at least. While it was unlikely to infect me, my swings were now extremely slow. Nevertheless, I persevered. My swings, though slow, were still able to get the job done, as long as I kept zombies a far enough distance away from one another, trailing them outside of the building at a snail's pace. After tackling the initial wave, I was able to forge ahead, checking the next shelves along. This time, finding more food, some candy, and some snacks, all of which would keep my caloric intake on track. But once again, I was pushed out by a small group. A group that made me finally cave on my attempts to go quiet and pull out the shotgun. At first, this dealt easily with the small amount that I'd attracted, but it awakened a much more significant amount from further down in the building.
I expected it, but whatever. Let's just do it. I'm sick of like them coming out of nowhere while I'm in there. I just realized I don't have my shotgun shells. Uh-oh. No. Stop, please. Stop, please. Jesus.
By no surprise, shooting a shotgun had drawn a lot more attention, but this also made me realize just how many zombies were still sitting in the far corner of the warehouse. This was gonna take me some time to deal with, but again, it had to be done. It's not like I could sneak past them in the pitch black of the warehouse interior. So I got to work. With my shotgun and a huge pile of shells in my backpack, I shot zombie after zombie, trailing them away, making my way back towards the warehouse. So many had emerged from the warehouse that I ended up circling back around to the battlefield from earlier, popping head after head. Finally, after what felt like hours, I had dealt with the bulk of them. As the sun set on the day I took my leave, knowing that the darker it got, the more danger I'd be putting myself in, I returned home to my humble abode, settling in with my friend Mr. Brollo keeping watch. He had never let me down.
Oh my god, I've just realized
He's gone. Where's Mr. Brollo? What the fuck?
Where's my mannequin? He fucking disappeared. No, it must have been one of those because my generator got disappeared. What the fuck? Okay, I just want to clarify. If anyone's watching this and says that Mr. Brollo looks different, no, he doesn't. He does not look different. He looks the same. You're probably confused. And I definitely wasn't a conflict with a mod that apparently despawned him. And unstable, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, that's the same Mr. Brollo, see? He's got the same handsome and ripped figure. This is definitely the same guy. He just changed clothes, okay? If anyone plays Build 42, just be prepared, okay? There's a lot of problems.
In the evening, I dug into my leftover venison roast before heading to bed, and in the morning I returned to finish what I'd started. And this will not come as a shock to you, but I spent the entire day working away at this horde, now using my M14 to make use of a different type of ammo. And it was actually becoming a real problem because I had yet to find any more ammo since the office haul, so I had to hope my giant stash I'd arrived with would be enough to accomplish my second goal. By the time I'd reached the late afternoon, I was finally able to venture inside, to continue reaping the benefits of my hard work. The next few units were all wins. Basically, a section of units with car parts and mechanical tools, and some more food, beans, and the like. In the first of the front entrance rooms, I found cardboard boxes filled with more non-perishable foods to add to my collection. In the process, I became aware of a small group of zombies out the front of the warehouse, so to avoid any unwanted surprises, I took the time to clear through them. By the time that was done, I was full to the brim and the night had arrived, so I made my way back to home base. And after a good night's sleep, I decided to take a short break from looting and work on my mini farm. One of the best parts about this base was that I pretty much had a free area to make your farm with open air access, and all the while it was defended by these reinforced walls, making it the perfect space. I funneled through my piles and found as many seeds as I could, planting them regardless of type. At this point, any kind of seasonings, carbs, and vegetables were welcome. With that taken care of, I collected some planks and sheets from some boxes on the tarmac that I'd seen earlier, for the eventual creation of storage crates. Yes, even I, the floor-dwelling demon, made plans for some kind of organization in the future. Over the coming days, I continued my looting runs to the warehouse, finding plenty of valuable additions to my stockpile.
There's alcohol in here. I don't know why I'd need it, but it does get lonely. What the fuck? Why is there so many baseball bats? It's just shelves of baseball bats? Okay, whatever. I guess I'll start using a baseball bat since apparently I'll have plenty of them. Okay, that is all cleared. So we pretty much cleared the left side of this building now. This we've checked. Yeah, and I think we have not checked that because I will take that propane tank. Hey, that's my car. You can't have it. Wow, that's huge. That's a lot of propane tanks, huh? That's very significant because that allows us to metal work with much greater ease. There is one fuckhead coming over here, but it's fine. I'll check this. That's the baseball bats, of which I'll take a couple. I think you can put nails in them. I don't know how effective they would be. I mean, obviously my strength is axes, so that's probably still my preference, but... And car stuff and food? Okay, it seems to be a mixed bag. What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay. I mean, gee, I'm lost for words, man.
With a bunch of gas tanks acquired and some new generators, I finally commandeered the gas pump nearby my home, turning it on and filling up both the stacks of gas cans I collected and the Humvee. Afterwards, I called it a night and headed off to bed. And in the morning, I directed my eyes on a new task. With what I'd accomplished so far, to tackle my remaining 2 goals, I had a few key subtasks. In order to clear this airport, or at least enough that it felt like an accomplishment, the main building I'd have to tackle would be the main terminal building. The hangars at the back were largely clear, and the front buildings were just restaurants and unrelated properties. But frankly, I had just spent a whole week clearing out the warehouse. So I decided to focus on fulfilling my 3rd goal first. In order to create a sustainable base, a hub for the future, I was missing a few things. First, running water. Secondly, a proper bedding area, since my prison bed left me with neck pain most mornings. And third, a proper storage area. We were making headway, but there were still some missing pieces to the puzzle. So in the morning, I made a plan to get running water. First, I drove over to the wall of the airport next to the grassy plains outside and carved a hole for me to travel through. That allowed me an easy passageway to collect some logs for now and into the future. Initially, I collected just enough logs for my next task, which I'd mentioned earlier. In order to set up water supply to the building, I'd need to place a rain catcher of some sort above the roof on the 2nd floor. As long as that was able to line up with the sink below, I'd be able to plumb it in. But the roof didn't have an access point, so I'd have to either climb the tower and build across from there, or do the far less efficient thing and build some kind of hodgepodge weird side building staircase extension. That required, like I'd mentioned earlier, some logs, since I still didn't have the carpentry level to make proper stairs. But once my side staircase was built, I was able to get the water catcher set up and finally plumb the sink.
I have a pipe wrench. Plumb. Did I just do it from here? I think that worked. Yeah, man. Looks good. Then we need to go back and clear out the rest of that warehouse. Honestly, how am I with blunt weapons? Because we have that many baseball bats that I'm not bad, man. Maybe it's worth, because there's just so many in there. And I think I can put stuff in them. I can put nails in it. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, baseball bat with nails. It just does more damage. Yeah, I mean, I assume it still counts as long blunt. I think that's for the best because I keep using axes and they're really good, but like, there's only so many axes. Whereas I have fucking like 30 baseball bats in that shelving unit.
With a new melee weapon acquired and some stuff dealt with at home, I continued my work funneling loot out of the warehouse. Since I was so sick of the darkness, I plugged in a generator to finally turn the lights on. And most experienced Zomboid players will know that this is not a good place to put a generator, because it will instantly start killing you. And this was something I knew about, and yet still was too stupid to remember. So after about 4 minutes of dying slowly, I finally figured it out and moved the generator outside. With the lights on, it was a lot easier to get a true sense of the scale of this place. If it wasn't apparent, it was no surprise that this building housed hundreds of zombies. I mean, it just kept going and going and going. I managed to acquire much more general food and snacks, some more warehouse tools, a bunch of gardening equipment, some fishing gear, and most importantly, some dice and a teddy bear. Because Mr. Brollo was nice company, but frankly, he didn't exactly keep me warm at night. It's that cold, cold heart of his, sucking the life out of everyone around like a real-life dementor. That sick fuck. Anyway, I had a teddy bear now, so it'd be nice to keep me nice and snug. In addition, I got a few extra melee weapons and a new helmet, before working my way towards a side building extension to the warehouse. Outside of it, I'd acquired a bunch of medical supplies, and I ran through clearing each and every cabinet despite being extremely tired, because frankly I was sick to death of this place. I needed to stay away for a while, so I wanted to make sure that this place had been completely checked before I moved on to the big bad of this adventure. Finally, after what felt like several weeks tackling this warehouse, I turned off the generator and headed home. With one of the two biggest buildings dealt with, my eyes moved forward towards the horizon, to the last big roadblock between me and accomplishing my goals.
The thing is, so the main building I want to clear here, just for my own like kind of thought process, is I would like to clear this main terminal building, because a lot of these I think are just factories and like general buildings, but this is the cool one. This is the airport building. I guess the question is, I don't know if we have the amount of ammunition we would need to do that. That's the big problem. We have a lot of ammunition, but there's going to be too many to deal with by hand, and gosh, yeah, I just don't know if we have enough. I don't have crates, so you can't criticize me for not putting them in crates, because I would have to go get wood and that would just take time, and that's just, yeah. Mr. Brollo will watch the ammo and we'll stack it all here so we can actually get a fair gauge of what we've got. So this is all I have, which is a lot, but like there's a lot of zombies in there. Like 25 boxes of shotgun shells, and then we've got like 20 boxes of 5.56, which is the M16, which I don't think, frankly, I'm good enough at aiming right now. That's my real problem. The shotguns I could probably, like, I guess 25 boxes is what, 225 times 25 is like 500 or something. So I can kill 525 zombies with the shotguns, which sounds like a lot, but then in reality I probably killed what, 200 in them. Actually, you know what, that might get me through. I guess worst case scenario, we could always just go, like, I have a plan for where to go, and I want to take my little birdie out for a flight, but I'm not going to go there unless I need to, you know what I mean? All right, then let's go with that plan. So let's go with the shotgun for now, just because it's a little bit easier, and let's prepare for the big war.
So it was time for all-out war. I would fight the undead threat within the terminal with every last piece of ammunition I had, and this would be a huge undertaking, but it's what I'd been preparing for. If I could clear the terminal, I could accomplish my second goal of clearing the airport and then finish off my base, making this the ultimate home for me going forward. In the morning, I stole a car with a siren and parked it in front of a terminal, arousing the first group of undead to come out, and in reality, this is all I'd need, because once I started shooting, the more noise I made, the more trouble would arise.
What is going on? A single cell frozen in time. There's something funny about me sitting here eating candy while I'm waiting for a giant horde to approach. Oh yeah, there's a lot coming out from there. Jesus, why were there so many in that one building? I think the stairway up must be in there, and that's why they're all coming like through this area. Alright, this is the last box I have on me. Jesus, okay. Freaking hell. I don't know how many that was. I've killed 2,600 zombies, that's crazy. Look at the wasteland, man. Alright, I'm gonna have to stop because I'm getting like tired, and the tiredness is making my aiming worse. I got plenty more water in here before I run out, so I can afford to wait for rain. And on with the battle. Dude, they're actually endless. This is insane, man. Damn, it feels good to be a veteran. That's it. I'm out. I got no more shotgun ammo. All right. Well, you don't sign up to jobs you're not ready to finish. That's one thing I'll say. Let's dance, guys. Oh, wait. Wait. It has a different range.
After hours and hours of tireless battle, I was victorious. Now, when I fired a shot, I didn't see endless hordes emerge from doorways. I heard the peaceful sounds of silence from within the terminal itself. Not a wayward groan, not a distant door being beaten. I could tell just from that alone that my war was, for the most part, complete. Not only had I drawn all the zombies from the terminal section I stood in front of, but for the most part, all the zombies in the front car park and the terminal itself had been drawn around the side passageways in part of my fight on that side. After a long night's sleep, I spent some of the morning preparing an area for a garage, because with the second goal of my journey now accomplished, I had two main focuses moving forward. First, if only for my satisfaction, I would loot this terminal, taking out any stragglers and finding any loot of value. And second, I would complete the finishing touches on my new home. Oh, and beside that, I had a plan in mind to return home to the resort, some unfinished business from earlier, and to, at the very least, ensure my animals lived on, though I suspected the crops may not retain their vibrance after this many weeks. So getting back to the point, I cleared out this front room. My plan was to eventually carve a hole in the wall and replace it with a gate, so a single car and trailer could be driven in and stored inside. Once I'd tackled enough and the sun had come up, I headed towards the terminal itself for my looting run within.
It's a very real possibility that there's nothing of value in this building, but we've done our part. We've done everything within our power to clear it. Andrel, I think I have, but I did need it for something, so I'm gonna grab it just in case. I don't hear any Zeds, which is a damn good sign. It's like a back passageway, I guess. Storage area, maybe? Ooh, hold on. What do we got? Anything? Spade. Nothing to get excited about, that's for sure. This goes further back here, I guess. Oh yeah, there's a whole other area down here. A lot of this so far, nothing special. Who's putting letter openers and pocket knives on the toy shelf? That's what I want to know. Can you climb in through here? You're coming behind me, aren't you? Jerk off, man. Fuck you. I need to keep track of where I am because I'm starting to lose track of where I've been.
Even though my looting trip was going pretty shit so far, I saw a pretty cool car, so I mean, we take those, you know? I'm really looking for the bright side here, I'm not gonna lie.
I guess we're gonna find out how many are on the back side of this place. Oh, there's a few, but I have cleared a lot of them. There's a bus here. This thing has some torque, man. I can feel it. Holy shit. Let's grab this bad boy, which might be the one we have the key for. Small cargo trailer, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, man. Oh, we'll take it. This thing can move. Hold on. Oh, man. I'm going to end up flipping this car. I can tell you, I can already feel it. It's going to happen. And it's loud as well.
Now, I had pretty much looted the entirety of this terminal, and it didn't equate to much, I have to be honest. But I kind of saw that coming. I mean, areas like this aren't really meant to be looting areas. But it was still a hell of an achievement in and of itself that this place was clear.
After I cleared the top of the airport, I have a really stupid idea, but something I kind of want to do anyway. It's probably going to be pointless, but I really want to go back to the resort because there was a lot of farm stuff there, but I think with the speed that these are going, the stuff at home's probably all dead, but the animals are all there. We could check on them and see if they're all alive. And we have a lot better ways to traverse now. For example, there's something that I haven't mentioned in a long time in this airport that will help me get across the map large distances. I don't know how reliable it will be, but it should work. So yeah, I kind of want to take it on a long trip and see how far we can get. Which side is this? This is the further down side. Either will work, to be honest. I should be careful here because there could still be Zeds here somewhere. I hear a Z somewhere. Be awfully careful. Is that a potato? But the number one thing that I've seen is like a bar. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I was hoping there might be like a food court or something up here. I mean, I gotta say, like, I think they cooked with the design of it. Like, it really does feel like an airport. Everything makes sense, you know what I mean? I think by the time we clear the other side of this food court, that's gonna be most of what's here. So then we can start to look to our next goals. I mean, I'll have a look, but I think that's it. I think that's all there is here. For all intents and purposes, do not come here on a solo run. Like, hey, let me be your guide, man, because this is not worth it in any sense of the word. The amount of work that it took to clear this place, like hours and hours and hours of holding right click and clicking left click. But this is definitely not worth it for like you playing on your end. Like yeah, I mean, I think honestly, there's no profit. I lost all my ammo. I'm down on like food. The way more worth was that warehouse, because if you're looking for generators, that warehouse is disgusting. There is a lot of generators there.
So we were now starting to move towards our final goals for this adventure, but I couldn't forget my roots, and my find earlier in this journey meant that returning to them was far more feasible than with a car. So I set a plan in place. If I could get this helicopter up and running, I would journey home and visit my resort, see if there were any crops that survived, and ensure that the animals were still in good shape. Maybe even return home with some eggs. This was the freedom that being able to travel by air had brought me. So once I'd unloaded all the loot from the airport terminal, I traversed to the north side of the airport and attempted to understand how to fly this thing, to first get it to the gas pump beside my house.
This one I think is in better condition. Okay. Oh, I forgot how loud these were. Alright, I'm gonna try and put this down next to the pump. But that would require the skill that I definitely do not have. Oh, it's the other side. Hold on. Okay. Please tell me that's close enough, because it's really difficult to... Hold on. Let's go! Holy shit, how long will this take to fuel? Oh my god, that's triple speed. Is actually going to run the gas pump out.
Now, it wasn't until I started pumping gas into this thing that I realized just how large the fuel tanks were. I stood at this gas pump from 8:20 p.m. to midnight, just fueling it up. But the gas pump had enough to fill it all the way to the brim. I hoped this would last me long enough to complete a return journey. After sleeping the night away, I prepared some food. To be specific, a vegetable jerky roast, a mishmash of carbs and proteins. That's all that mattered. I was able to harvest a few crops from my farm and place them in the fridge. This was all just the final preparations before my big trek. I loaded up some spare gas in the helicopter. At this point, I realized that apparently these things come stocked with like 6 jerry cans, which was a nice bonus. Oh, and an M16, but I had one of those, so I wasn't particularly blown away. But I really have become spoiled, huh? And finally, it was time. Time to break the laws of this world and journey forth into the great glitchy unknown. For the first time ever, I would take to the skies.
It is time to go home.
As I flew across the world, I looked beyond the obvious glitchy nature of this modification and saw instead the beauty of the trees, the peace and quiet in the air, the blue sky ahead, and remembered that there was one place I had to stop at before I could go to the resort. Because the truth is, dear viewer, I have lied to you. When I told you that I met up with Mr. Brollo at the clothing store, I lied. I know this may be a shock to some of you, that all the time I have spent at the airport has merely been with an imposter. I know this may break your heart, and I'm sorry. I'm sure many of you have grown attached to this Mr. Brollo, but the whole time you were unknowingly becoming attached to a false prophet, a deceitful monster, because the real Mr. Brollo really did get left in West Point.
I gotta pick up an old friend. Should be over here somewhere. Is he? Mr. Brollo! He's here! He's here, Mr. Brollo! I'm back! I came back for you! I didn't replace you! I never replaced you. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Brollo, thank you for keeping watch. So kind of you, Mr. Brollo. Wow. Wow, what a guy. Wow. Anyway, a lot's happened, man. So we head back to the resort, okay? All right, let's go, Mr. Brollo. So sorry about that small mix-up.
Reunited with my friend, I took to the skies once again, traversing the final long stretch to my destroyed resort home. The Great Deletion could take away my hub within, but my farm remained secure, untouched. And as I approached, I felt a comfortable glow within, happy to see my livestock friends.
Well, I'll be damned. It looks like there might be some crops alive. And all the animals, they got food. Not thirsty. Wow. Any eggs? You guys are alive here, huh?
Now, in all honesty, it was the right decision to leave this behind. Though the animals remained in good shape and the farm did its job despite being left to cook a little bit too long, most of what I built within was ripped apart. So though I felt some attachment, I knew I'd made the right decision. I hadn't planned it, but conveniently enough, I was able to take one of the beautiful resort beds apart, bringing back enough parts to return home with it. After checking on the animals and ensuring they were kept in good shape, I spent a moment with Mr. Brollo, reminiscing on the pier, sharing memories of our past life together. Since I was already here, I decided I might as well collect a heap of the leftover logs that I cut down for the wall long ago. Ones that I had left behind because I had no need for them. Though I could collect timber at the airport, it certainly wasn't as readily available, and this would save me an extra trip. But even after spending a night here at the resort, I thought back to my new home and what improvements I had yet to make. I wished goodbye to my livestock, promising to return down the line and check on them again. I collected the real Mr. Brollo, promising I wouldn't leave him behind again, and I took to the skies to return home and complete the last few accomplishments I had left. After several hours flying across the land, I arrived home, landing myself on the roof, a convenient space to keep my helicopter. It was almost like I planned it that way. I left the true Mr. Brollo in the corridor, while I mulled over how best to approach my double Brollo dilemma. Because it was finally time to make good on a promise. It was finally time to organize this damn loot pile. Over the next few hours, I placed new containers, categorizing them, moving the loot within, exposing the floor I'd once left behind. It took some time and I hated every minute of it, but it needed to be done. I needed to evolve into a more civilized creature to demonstrate what separated us living from the rest of the dead. Once the storage area was complete, I made good on another small goal, breaking open several walls, clearing out a new space and installing my new bed. Alongside it, I installed a mirror, a small area with some new chairs, and a water storage area. After a good night's sleep in my new bed, I completed a harvest of my farm, gathering heaps of new vegetables and herbs, and continued cleaning up the place, removing the last of the loot from the ground. Last but not least, I finished the garage, removing the wall from the front edge and replacing it with a wooden gate, before driving in a car and making sure it functioned correctly. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than I absolutely smashed it out of the park. With goals 1, 2, and 3 now complete, I was proud, even if I did miss my giant pile of shit on the floor.
Right, well, I mean, all things considered, this place is looking pretty sweet now. I don't know if my garage would fit the bigger truck, but at the moment the battery's dead in it because I left the lights on. We've got everything we could need here. We've got food, we've got an abundance of medical supplies. I mean, just have a look at like the kind of state of our loot situation, and there is, you know, potentially areas that we need to look at. So with some of our goals, maybe in the next part we will need a lot more ammo, and it's not going to be an easy feat, but we have plenty of first aid stuff, food, plenty here. We also obviously have a farm that's operational here. It's not what our old farm was, but as we saw, that didn't survive too well without my guidance. But yeah, things are coming along for sure, so I'd say it's only a matter of time before we can move on to what's next. But yeah, this place is pretty amazing. The airport is cleared. We have the garage built with a door, and up the stairs we also have this bad boy, which will come in handy in the next part. Yeah, who knows if there will be a next part. Only I know. You don't know. You might know, but just based on the inflection of my language, you might know, but you probably don't. For sure, you never know what could happen. Things could change real fast. Hopefully, if all things go well, I will, as long as my base doesn't get evaporated again by a new patch, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Great job. Now maybe just watch the rest of them. I don't know. Just watch every other one. And join my Discord. That's all there is. That's not supposed to. Okay.